Small boats, soaring taxpayer costs, complex legal wrangles and lives at stake. Britain's migrant crisis is the burning topic for many of our voters. Labour pledges to smash the gangs, whilst Reform pledges to stop the boats. And the nation wants borders that are fair, firm and, most importantly, ours. There's been plenty to talk about on the Daily Expresso all around this issue. Now let's hear what our guests had to say.
I wouldn't put it past the government. I mean, they paid the Ethiopian asylum seeker who was a convicted sex criminal from the Epping migrant hotel, paid him 300 quid to get on a plane instead of, saying you're deported, mate, on your bike. Here's £300, which is an average Ethiopian yearly salary. It's a huge amount of money. They are rewarding men who break into our country from a safe country. And I think many people are beginning to feel not only is this government theft now, because there's no representation of this. There's no democratic means for the British people to stop this anymore.
There is. We wait for the general election.
Only because Reform's standing. Before Reform were around, you had no way of stopping this because every party just opened the borders. The £100 reward on top of the £50 a week, I think is an absolute scandal. Even I know Labour are denying that it's a formal plan, but the fact that it was in the works, this is their solution. Just keep giving them money. People don't want these asylum seekers here from France. They don't want them. Labour's answer is just to shuffle them around the country, let them roam the streets wherever they are. No, no, no. We just had reports from Dorset that 44% of the sex offenders facing court in Dorset are asylum seekers. 44%. There is an increased risk of rape and crime by men from certain countries, Afghanistan especially, 3 times more likely to be convicted of a sexual crime than a British-born man. The government, this is no accident, by the way. The asylum process is absolutely designed to allow as many people in as possible.
For what purpose? For what gain?
Okay, black market in the UK is worth £200 billion a year.
Okay.
Number 2, I think they would rather Britain suffer, sacrifice our borders and sacrifice their people than upset the liberal global stage. For them, the idea of removing the UK from the international outdated treaties is far more horrific than the odd sacrificial woman or man that's attacked on the streets. I think this is where their mind is at. They no longer work for national applause, JJ. They work for global liberal applause. And so they will not do anything to stop the boats because there's no political will for it.
But surely, with Starmer now, surely he knows if he doesn't stop the boats and if he doesn't close the borders, it's likely Reform are going to be the next government.
I don't think they think like that at all. I think Keir Starmer's plan is probably to try and unite the Greens, Lib Dem, Labour in a sort of stop the fascist form.
Polanski has said he will never team up with Starmer, and I think that's great of Polanski. He's standing on his morals. He said he will not link up with Starmer.
But look how it benefits Labour. The vast majority of migrants vote for Labour, 70%, I think it is. And so they win on that level. I think there is a dislike for Englishness in England from the Labour Party. I think they believe that multiculturalism and diversity is the holy grail that they're all working towards. And they need worker bees. So they see every single migrant male who's young, fit, relatively wealthy, who's broken into this country as a worker bee that will essentially end up getting leave to remain and become part of the number system in this country for big corps.
I don't know.
There's many reasons why they do it. But I tell you something, it's deliberate, JJ, because they could stop the boats if they wanted to. Denmark, Germany, all these European countries are now taking a very aggressive stance against illegal migrants, showing that even if you're in the ECHR, actually you can stop them. But because of our case law, how we've interpreted the ECHR,
that's it.
It's a disaster.
So we need to have our law changed, because in Denmark, as I've told you many times, my grandmother's Danish. So they, if someone applies for asylum, it doesn't go to the courts at all. It goes to a board or a panel first. If they say no, you're not going to get asylum, that person can appeal. It goes to a higher board. That second board says, no, you can't, you're out. They can't then go to a judge. The judges cannot get involved. That person is then deported. We don't have that in this country.
Not only do we not have that, but those that get their asylum claim rejected don't get deported.
No.
Very, very rarely, because there are so many unsafe countries. Well, I'm sorry, if you rape our children, if you commit crime, if you stab people in the street, I don't care what country you go back to. I don't care what happens to you. You made a choice when you decided to abuse the hospitality of this country and hurt our people. Damn right you should go back and suffer the consequences. That needs to change.
Yeah.
Labour will never send back criminals to these so-called unsafe countries, whereas Germany has made a deal with the Taliban now so that they can send back the Afghan, asylum seekers.
Yeah.
Imagine opening our doors to Afghanistan, men not knowing whether they're Taliban supporters, and that awful Afghan resettlement scheme that Labour and Tories secretly pulled into Parliament, costing us billions of pounds, resettling tens of thousands, and then we find out they don't know whether they worked for the British Army or not. This is the state of affairs, JJ, and it needs to stop. We need to have someone with courage and backbone to sort it all out.
Have you seen the clip of Rylan on This Morning?
I have.
So, yeah, but you've seen it. Okay, he says something needs to be done drastically now about immigration. Is there room for Rylan in reform? Would he be one of your ministers, perhaps?
Well, I don't know.
Culture secretary?
Well, I don't know. I thought it was very interesting that he said it. I thought what was even more interesting is how little backlash he's got. If he'd used that position on an ITV programme like that 4 or 5 years ago, there would have been a 300,000 signature petition demanding he was sacked.
Yeah.
And that hasn't been the case. So people do know that something needs to be done. And let's face it, I have been the clearest, most consistent person warning about this. I was going out into the channel in early 2020, filming these shenanigans, saying, wake up everybody. This is happening. And I think with the illegal migration, I think that the sense of unfairness, the fact that people, there was one in Suffolk over the weekend, people being put into this lovely new build in Suffolk, when there's 1.3 million people in the country on social housing lists. That sense of unfairness, I think, strikes very deep.
Okay. Your policy layout had a lot of reactions. I want to hear your reactions to some of these reactions. It won't surprise you. Labour have called these fantasy resolutions, and Starmer actually then tweeted, if you're thinking about coming to the UK illegally, don't. You'll face detention and return.
What, from reform? Yeah. Not from him. We're having a laugh. If you come to the UK illegally under Keir Starmer, we guarantee 4-star. We can't promise 5-star, but we guarantee. I mean, come on. What have they done? Nothing. Apart from lie to us. I'm sorry, but I now got to the point where he just repeatedly lies to us. Over and over and over.
Can you imagine if Farage, say, this morning, or no, say Friday, had said that he's got this great idea that people come off boats and we start taking the gold teeth out of them and stealing their watches and stuff like that? How would that have gone down? How would Farage have been treated?
Oh, Bill said he's a racist.
Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah.
And we think that's nuts anyhow. We think so. And also, as was pointed out this morning, you can't see 50 Cent coming across on a boat with lots of chains and all the rest of it. I mean, it's not... People on those boats are not carrying large quantities of ready money. They're not carrying bags of gold. It seems, I think, in Denmark, only 17 people have ever had stuff taken off them in this way. And it seems to be... It's supposed to be red meat to reform, I suppose, but actually, we're not stinkers. We don't think that's nice. It isn't nice. That isn't how it works. But we do feel that she's set this rule that people can go if their countries are safe. Once they've been asylum seekers, they go back to their countries once they're deemed safe. But who deems them safe? Not Shabana Mahmood. It's going to be the courts that deem them safe. Why did the Rwanda deal collapse? Because the courts decided that Rwanda wasn't safe, not because of the government. And I would suggest that if you were a villainous Jewish person living in France and the French wanted a Brit and wanted to deport them back to the UK, they would be easy to argue that the UK was not a safe nation for somebody who was Jewish, given the murders in Manchester, given the hate marches, given things of this sort. So what is safe? And that is going to be decided by the courts, not by the government. And the only person in the government who may be involved is the Attorney General, and that's Lord Hermer, who thinks international law is wonderful and is one of the leading people to stop countries being regarded safe. So I think the rhetoric is absolutely reform. The reality, no chance.
But if we're going to copy the Danish framework, there'd be like only one judge involved. We have to change the law completely. So it's
for that you need primary legislation.
Yeah,
and I do not think that they've got the numbers for primary legislation. I certainly don't think it'll get through the House of Lords. I just think this is rhetoric to try and stem the huge blood flow from Labour to reform.
Robert Jenrick has stood by the comments he previously made this year about Handsworth in Birmingham. Jenrick said he'd not seen another white face in the hour and a half he spent in the area in March. He was in the Handsworth area filming a video about litter and called it one of the worst integrated places he'd ever been to. The recording, published by The Guardian, was allegedly made during a dinner and has not been disputed by the Tory MP's team. In the recording, he continues, "That's not the kind of country I want to live in. I want to live in a country where people are properly integrated. It's not about the colour of your skin or your faith. Of course it isn't, but I want people to be living alongside each other, not parallel lives." Now, Carol, I've got lots of thoughts on this because I'm from this neck of the woods. I've got family and friends. I used to play sport in this area. I think he's talking absolute drivel for the most part, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts.
I don't think he is. I think what he did was he made an observation, and I don't think that's racist, to make an observation of what you see. I live in a part of London. If I travel 2 miles to another area, I would barely see a white face either. I think what he's talking about generally is multiculturalism, and he's talking about how it hasn't worked, and it really hasn't worked. There are whole areas of this country there are communities that are not British communities. We have whole cities in this country now that are Muslim cities. If you remember Danny Kruger, when he went over to Reform, he was talking about this, and he said we have whole communities that have completely separated themselves, and they're living a very un-British life. And let's be straight here, we're talking about Islam, and the problem with Islam is that there's an expectation that goes with it that you have to live in a certain way. And that way conflicts with our way of life in the sense that I do not want to walk around this country and see women with cages on their faces and covered from head to toe with only their eyes on show, walking 4 paces behind their husband. I don't want to see that. And should I be tolerant of that? Well, I am, because I don't do anything about it. But do I want to see that? No, I don't. We have many subcultures in this country who are living entirely apart, living on their own. They exist in their own bubble. We have people in this country who've been here for 20 years who don't speak English. That's not multiculturalism. That's not what it was supposed to be about. We were all supposed to live alongside each other, and that's not happening. We are living segregated lives. And I think the greatest threat to this country isn't British white racism. It's the importation of tribal ideologies that don't get on. Do you remember the riots in Leicester a couple of years ago where 2 factions of Muslims were fighting? And I think it was Hindus and
Sikhs, maybe, yeah.
And they were so that is happening in this country. That should not be happening in this country. If you come here, you should come here because you like what our culture is. You shouldn't come here and say, I hate your culture. It's obscene. We want to get rid of it. We want it subsumed. We want to trash it.
So your husband isn't British.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, exactly. And he's come here and integrated and speaks language.
My husband adores this country.
So multiculturalism does work then.
And
you can't say it's failed because of a few incidences.
Well,
but there's plenty more people who are not born here, or people like me who are sons of immigrants who have integrated perfectly.
But my husband's culture does not clash with ours. And even if it did, he tells me he respects this country's culture. He respects what this country has done for him, and he will follow the rules of this country and always has. And I think when you see what's happening on our streets just now. You see what's happening with the pro-Palestinian demonstrations every single week. You see people shouting for the deaths of people from other cultures and other religions, and this has become a country where you can do that, where you can actually go onto our street and you can say Jews have to die, where you can say, kill those people.
But I've been on those marches, and I see the majority of people on those marches are white people.
I don't care about the majority. I'm talking about the minority.
But you've got white people on marches shouting from the river to the sea. Yes, that is unacceptable. But that's not.
Totally.
But then that's not a fault of multiculturalism. That's white people in this country speaking up for people being oppressed elsewhere.
Why are Jews in this country now living in terror, living in fear, being told to stay at home, to keep out of trouble, to not put themselves in public view? That is totally unacceptable. unacceptable.
It
in this
is totally
country.
unacceptable.
And we have a government and we have police forces who let these people who threaten Jews get away with it. I'm not Jewish, but my God, I feel for them.
Absolutely.
Who would be a Jew in this country today?
But then,
Seriously.
But if we're talking about, if you're talking about Muslims and you want to see women walk behind their husbands,
I don't.
What about communities like in London, Stamford Hill, which is a majority Hasidic Jewish community? But according to what you're saying and what Jemrick is saying, is that community shouldn't exist. Also, there should be.
No, I'm not saying that.
But there should be British people living amongst the Hasidic Jews. There should be
the Jewish
ethnically English
culture
people.
does not try to change ours.
Okay.
Never have. They have never imposed themselves on our culture. They do not say that our culture is trash.
So your issue is just with Islam then?
My issue is not just with Islam. My issue is with cultures and religions that are contrary to British beliefs and British cultures and British traditions.
But Jemrick is saying his issue is that there's not enough white people. He's saying in Handsworth he didn't see a single white face.
Well, if
in
he
the 90
didn't,
minutes
that's
he was
his
there.
observation, and you have to accept that. When was the last time you were there?
Handsworth. I was there last weekend. I was in Solihull and Handsworth last weekend. My auntie Daisy lives in Handsworth Wood.
Okay.
There are white people in Handsworth. That is just
What
a
is
fact.
the majority?
The majority is Asian. I think it's 60% Asian,
Well, I
and
think
then it's about 20%
that's
black
kind of what he
and
was
20%
saying.
white. Well, he said he didn't see a single white face, which is what I'm saying, and that's his observation. Fine, but if he went to the countryside and he doesn't see a single brown or black face, is he going to say this isn't right? We must have more brown and black people in the countryside.
But it has been said. We know it's been said. It's been
Not
said
by Jemrick, it ain't been said.
Not by Jemrick,
So
by
he's
members
picking
of the Labour. We've had people say the countryside is racist because the people who've gone there don't see a black or a brown face.
The former mayor of West Midlands, Andy Street, he came out and said himself, it's simply not true. What Jemrick's saying is
Well,
not
he
true.
would
And it's
say
just,
that.
but he's a Tory. Never mind, he's a Tory. I just feel like Jemrick's words are just stoking division, and he's specifically saying he has a problem in areas in this country where he doesn't see a white face after 90 minutes. That is poor. That is a poor representation on his behalf.
If that was his experience, if that's what he saw,
That's his
because
truth.
what you're suggesting is he's lying. That
Yeah.
he did see. So is that what you're suggesting? That he's lying?
I'm suggesting that he spending 90 minutes anywhere is not enough to gauge how some places. Absolutely
Well, I
not.
think it's enough to gauge what your eyes see. So if he hasn't seen a white face, that's what he is saying. It would be very silly of him to lie because he would not have been on his own. There would have been other people around him who would have said, you're talking tosh. I mean, he does generally talk tosh. I mean, it is true. But if that's your observation of something, if that is the case, well, then you're entitled to say it. And it's not racist to say it.
Now, earlier in the week, we brought you the news that asylum seeker Hadush Kibetu had been sentenced to 12 months in prison after sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman in Epping. The incident had fueled weeks of protests at the Bell Hotel, where Kibetu had been staying. The Ethiopian national was found guilty of 2 counts of sexual assault, attempted sexual assault, inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity, and harassment without violence. Now, we had tons of comments on this story from you, starting with Chris Jones, 5240. He said he gets 12 months, but someone who said unsavory words gets 24 months. I've seen this kind of comment being made a lot, both on the website and articles, under the videos on YouTube. What I would say is I agree that 12 months is too light a sentence, but we are a country that is based on justice, and the precedent set in similar cases, the perpetrators are getting the same kind of sentencing.
It's just astonishing that you can write a tweet and end up in jail. When also a mother in jail for such a long sentence for writing a tweet, and a sex offender given 12 months. It's just appalling. And I think, I mean, ultimately, judges, magistrates, whoever can only sentence within the guidelines they've been set.
Yeah.
But I think people will look at that and just think this is absolutely appalling. And when you look at the perpetrator, he asked to be deported because the trouble he has caused, I think, has made him think, actually, I don't want to be here. But I think, as Belinda de Lucy said earlier in the week, it's absolutely right that he serves his sentence here. Justice must be done for the poor girl who was assaulted by this man. I think it's obviously it's a case that has captured the imagination of the nation, but rightly so. I think it symbolises what is wrong with our justice system at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll be writing my column this weekend that's out on Monday. Make sure you buy the newspaper on Monday. But in my column, I'm going to be saying I don't Belinda did make me change my mind about
Yeah.
it initially, but I've thought about it more since. I don't think we should keep foreign criminals in our prisons. I think we should deport them to their own countries, and we say to their countries, you're going to put this person in jail in your country for 15 months, 2 years, whatever it is. And if you don't do it, we're going to put sanctions on your country. And that's it. We're going to cripple your country until you can start providing people who are going to follow the rules. I think we have to use our strength.
That's
as you say,
pretty tough.
yeah.
So what? So one guy goes back and they let him out, and then we put sanctions on that nation.
Yes.
Blimey. Okay.
Yeah. make that whole government, whichever country it is, make them. Oh, we cut foreign aid. This guy's from Ethiopia. We give foreign aid to Ethiopia. We say, okay, every time your criminal does something, we're going to take another 100,000 off. That's it. We're putting you to the
Blimey,
bottom of the
okay.
list.
Okay,
That's
this
what I
is
think.
fair enough. Well, I'm looking forward to reading this column.
We have another comment here from Jack296 who said, I don't usually comment, but when I heard 12 months, that's ridiculous. I'm certainly not a full-form reform swinger, but how the hell is this guy not being deported? This has angered me. Well, Sam, as you said, the guy has to serve time in prison. Otherwise, as Belinda says, crime tourism?
I mean, it does feel like that. And one of the comments he made, actually, after he was arrested, was the rules are too strict here. The rules are too strict here.
Nuts.
But which I think but that illustrates, he just thought it was fine to come over here and harass girls and women.
Yeah.
He just thought that was fine. He thinks we're in the wrong here because our rules are too strict. I mean, that is just insane.
Imagine if I go to, anywhere.
Yeah.
If I go to France, Germany, America, rob a bank, and then say, actually, would you just send me back to the UK, please? I don't want to be in your prison. Just send me back to the UK. It'll be fine.
I didn't realise you had your tough rules about robbing banks. So just put me on a plane back.
Absolutely mental.
Yeah, crazy.
Do you think this is going to stop the protests at the Bell Hotel now? Will locals be calmer?
I think possibly, because I think they kind of proved their point.
Mm-hmm.
I think they achieved what they wanted to achieve. Which was to bring this case to national prominence, and they've done that. So I think probably I would imagine they will die off a little bit. But the issue is not going away.
Yeah.
So you can take asylum seekers out of hotels, but where do you put them then? Is it into HMOs? So that house down your street suddenly converted into a 5-bedroomed house.
Yeah.
And asylum seekers are put in there. There's nothing you can do about that. There is no means of protesting against that. That's going to cause real problems. So this story is not, the bigger story is not going away.
Well, let's talk about immigration, because Shabana Mahmood, she's promised this Danish-style crackdown. What are your thoughts on this, and what's Westminster's thoughts on it? Are
Right.
people split?
Right. So I have to say, the chutzpah of this Home Secretary to say that she was going to crack down on immigration, to say that she was going to bring in this Danish-style crackdown, that she saw that illegal immigration was tearing the country apart, and that's what she was planning to do. Because remember, Shabana Mahmood is the person who wanted an amnesty for all illegal immigrants, also was saying refugees are welcome here, and also signed that letter, that disastrous letter, stopping foreign criminals from being deported and kept them here. So that's really what she's about. And yet she's decided she wants to go toe-to-toe with reform and out reform. It was as if she was auditioning to Nigel Farage for what she was going to do. But she, too, has her eye on the main job as being Prime Minister, and she understands, well, what has she done so far? Not a lot. Remember, she is also the person who was in charge of that terrible sentencing bill. She's the architect of that, even though David Lammy's taking control of it now. She's the architect of that, so she knows she's got to do something about immigration, and that's why she's brought this forward. But I looked up and I was looking into this Danish system, and actually it's quite interesting there. there because what happened was in the 2010s, you had the Social Democratic Party. They were thinking, oh, we're going to lose to the Danish People's Party, which was very much a right-wing party, which would be like a reform party. And immigration was a big issue. So the Social Democrat Party said, we better do something about immigration. We better bring it down to make sure that the Danish People's Party don't work. And they achieved in that. Hence, they brought in a much tougher system. So she's trying to replicate that, seeing reform is the opposition, seeing that reform, all right, double pretty much their polling, they will win. So she's thinking, how do I take the wind out of their sails? The only thing I will say is it can never work what she plans to do.
Why not?
Because she isn't prepared to come out of the Human Rights Act. She isn't prepared to come out of the ECHR. And without doing those two things, fundamentally, none of it can work. So when she says, I'm going to bring in legislation to put the British law above the ECHR, well, she can't. Because the Human Rights Act is British law. She can't do that when she is saying, oh, I'm going to make sure that, we will get rid of families and children and deport them. No, they can't. They'll be using the Human Rights Act to stay in the country. So everything she's talking about, although I would say it was good, it was going in the right direction, she ain't going to deliver it. And remember, this woman is also trying to bring in more safe and legal routes to bring more immigrants into the country.